to the Cooking Up Joy Show. I'm your host, Alicia Madeline, grief to gratitude chef and founder of Roots and Returns. Here we use the power of food, stories, and traditions to heal, reconnect, and rediscover joy. Today's episode is The Joy of Healing, Baking Through Grief. Today we're diving into my all-time favorite cake, Vanilla Dream Pound Cake. It's a recipe that's is so delicious, and it reminds us of the complexities of grief. Grief is hard, it's weird, it's complex. And it also reminds us to find healing in unexpected spaces. So today's episode is a little bit different because I'm your guest. So I usually sit with someone and talk with them about their story. And today you're going to be hearing mine. But first, as always, we start with a drink to pair with our cake. Our cake, the Vanilla Dream Pound Cake is in the oven right now. But hopefully by the time we get to our conversation, we can enjoy that together. Hey, so before we dive into today's conversation, we're kicking things off with a drink inspired by comfort, warmth, and reflection. It's called the Spiced Honey Citrus Refresher. That's a tongue twister. The Spiced Honey Citrus Refresher. It's got orange juice, and you can do orange or lemon juice, a honey simple syrup, a dash of cinnamon, and some sparkling water, and of course, a spirit. So let's make it. I'm gonna I'll just make it from the side, just sitting down like this. So I'm pouring in first. I'll squeeze up some orange juice. And a little splash. That's a big splash of cinnamon. Let's move this out of the way. Okay. We've got the lid to my shaker. Be right back.
We just need some conversation, commercial break. Cause we just need to find out where we are.
We already have ice inside. We're adding in some honey simple syrup. Super duper good. And spiced rum. Now I'm gonna go 2-part spiced rum just because I want to keep sipping throughout this conversation. And then you can do ginger ale. You guys probably know on a lot of these shows I'm drinking sparkling water because I love sparkling water. And so that's what we have in here. Actually, I'm going to add that to my glass. So the top on. Try that again. Get the top on. Give it a shake. Let's give it another shake. All right. Let's pour it in. I'll pour it this way so you can see it. Look at that pretty color. You can see little specks. Cinnamon. Now for the sparkling water. Let's see what we got here. And now, this is our spiced honey citrus refresher. Oh, that's good. Mm, that's very good. Very, very good. This drink blends the sweetness of honey with the brightness of citrus and a subtle hint of those warm spices. So that cinnamon, that spiced rum, symbolizing the bittersweet balance of grief and joy. So even though I've been sipping, cheers to you. Raise your glass with me. Here's to the sweetness of memories and the joy we find in healing. Cheers, friends. Mm-hmm. Definitely gonna keep sipping on that. So let me tell you why I call this particular pound cake vanilla dream. It's a variation of my grandmother's pound cakes. Now, I've told you about my grandma Laura, my grandma Ailey's, and how much they've inspired my journey. Their cakes were absolute masterpieces. Now, this cake is not theirs, but in honoring their cakes and putting my own spin on it, I've taken three of my favorite pound cakes from my grandmother's and created this beautiful harmony of flavors all in one, resulting in the most dreamy flavor, hence the name.
Okay, so let's make a cake. Now, I find that when my ingredients are at room temperature, it just makes for a more delicious cake, certainly a lighter and a fluffier cake. It also helps with the whipping process. And so here you see me whipping up and creaming some salted butter. It's about 4 sticks of salted butter. And I'm going to be whipping this up for a while 3, 4, sometimes you may even go 5 or 6 minutes. But you're going to whip it until it's nice and big and it's pale in color. We just want to get a lot of air in this butter. And then you're going to add to it your extracts. After you've done that, it's all combined. You're going to change to the paddle attachment. Once that paddle attachment is on, you're going to add in about 3 cups of sugar and whip it up for another maybe 3, 4, or 5 or 6 minutes. Again, it really depends on the temperature in your house and the tools that you're using. After that, with that paddle attachment still attached, you're going to add in slowly 6 eggs, one at a time. I like to crack my eggs in a bowl on the side and then just add them in one by one that way. You're going to add them one at a time, ensuring that it's all incorporated. And finally, you're going to add in your flour. You're going to go flour, milk, alternating beginning and ending with your flour. Once all of your ingredients are mixed up, you'll add it to your cake pan. In today's case, I'm using a bundt pan. And then pop it in the oven for, then this part is tricky. You're going to pop it in at 325 for about an hour and a half. But this also depends on where you are in the world, the temperature in your home, if it's a cooler day or a warmer day. So I like to set mine at about 120 and then I'll just watch it like crazy for the next half hour.
I find myself asking, how has baking helped me in my healing journey? And this cake is really a testament to it. It's a testament to resilience. It's a testament to transforming simple ingredients into something comforting and uplifting. Um, and so in this moment, I want to share with you my story. So I and how I got here. Like what's the deal with healing and baking and grief and all of that jazz, right? Well,
Conversation.
let's start at the beginning. Growing up, I didn't have the typical dream, what I imagined. is a typical dream that most little girls growing up through the 80s and 90s had. I didn't have this desire to want to find someone to carry me off on a white horse and get married. I didn't have the dream of wanting to have this beautiful wedding and have a bunch of kids. I don't know why. I honestly, my thinking was I just wanted to help people, but I didn't want to work in the clinical field. So it was a weird thing, and I couldn't figure that out. But as I move on, there was a time. So when love found me, and I moved to Atlanta from North Carolina, and I remember taking this trek to Atlanta, and it was the most exciting thing. I had enough. It for me, it was moving to Atlanta was like I'm moving to. It felt like a big little city. Now, Atlanta's a big city, but for whatever reason, circa 2006, that's kind of where my mindset was. It didn't feel like I had cousins in New York where I wanted to move, but I felt like that might be too much. Um, so let me go to Georgia because Georgia's the South. So it just felt safe. So go to Atlanta. And if you live in Atlanta, or you know Atlanta, you know you just fall in love with that city. The food is good, the people are great. It's just an amazing, amazing city. And I fell in love. I fell in love, and it was the most beautiful love. I can remember being so excited about a new dream. Because for me, again, as a kid, I don't know why I didn't have that fairy tale feeling. But when I fell in love, this new these new desires came about. This new interest came about for me, and so I started that. I ended up I get married. Um, I think my room is working. So I fall in love, and I'm really living in a dream because my partner at the time proposed to me and totally wasn't expecting it. But again, understand it wasn't my plan. So, of course, I wasn't expecting it. My partner and I, we then get married. On the journey to getting married, like right before we got married, we met a group of friends who were like our best gal pals, right? And they were all married. So now we're in this group of friends who are married. And, when you're in that circle, you talk about married things and couple things. And then we all start buying houses and more properties and building businesses, and careers are getting stronger. And so this dream that I didn't plan for, I'm living it. I'm living in this dream, right? And so my friends at the time, some of my friends started to prepare to have babies. Never had an interest in having children. Um, again, and I had dolls as a little girl, but I don't know that I saw my dolls as my kids. They were my friends. So, um, so I I'm now in this realm of being married, and now my friends are planning to have children. So it just felt like the natural progression. It felt like the next step. And so my wife and I began the process to get pregnant. I was just a little bit younger than my partner, so it made sense for me to be the carrier. And I think I might be about 31, 32 at this point. And I remember the doctor saying, "You're you're at the top of the age range. So, you know, this may not be possible." And I'm like, it's fine, like I didn't plan for this. We're gonna give this a try." Like, you just I don't know. If it's when it's not a part of your plan, it feels easy or simple. So go through the process of the IUI process or for fertility process. And so um they're like, "Hey, you got a good set of eggs. You're a good candidate. Lose a little weight, and we'll go from there." So started exercising and doing my best to change my diet. And um on this journey to both get healthy so that my oven could be ready to bake this baby, right? My partner at the time, wife, spouse, uh, was diagnosed with breast cancer. And then we had to take a pause. So we had to take a pause with baby planning to get her healthy. She got healthy. She was doing fine. I believe she's doing fine now. And um maybe we get back into the process about 2016, 2017 or so. And at this point, now I really want a baby. And I didn't want a baby before, like growing up, right? So here we are, and we go through the process. So we go through looking for a sperm donor, and it just you kind of become obsessed with it. You're looking for the perfect sperm donor. You want that donor to have a little bit of you, a little bit of your partner, a little bit of your family. You don't know this person, and also you don't want them to have any kind of health issues that conflict with yours. And it was it was something else. It was an interesting process, but also fun, I guess, or exciting or interesting. So we land on a donor, fell in love with this donor. This donor was an artist, which was like it was great for me. Like I love that about them. And this donor had an incredible relationship with their grandfather, and I remember just thinking wonderful because I had this strong relationship with my grandmothers and my grandfather, um, who we just recently lost. And so um, this felt great. It felt kismet, right? And so then we go through the process of the IUI process, and we try the first time, don't get pregnant. And our fertility specialist, she says, "Don't worry, people don't really get pregnant the first time. Cool. Go through the second time, don't get pregnant." And the fertility specialist says, "Well, it makes sense. People don't really get pregnant a second time. Like it's a process. You gotta go through it. It's gonna take a few times. Third time, don't get pregnant. Fourth time, don't get pregnant." Now, at this point, this planning for a baby has become my dream, our dream. It became a dream in my marriage. In my marriage, we were planning for a baby. We started considering names and where will we live, because even though we lived in this wonderful home with amazing neighbors in Atlanta, we built a beautiful, wonderful neighbor experience where neighbors would come over just to sit on the porch, and we'd go and sit on their porch. Like it was just an incredible life. We thought, well, if we're gonna have a baby, we need to have more space. We needed to have more yard, all this, right? And then we're like, four times we've tried with this to get pregnant. We didn't get pregnant with this donor. And I guess some folks might think, well, I keep trying, maybe it's something wrong with the donor, but we bought 6 vials. So I mean, we spend our money, like, we gotta get our money's worth, right? So we bought 6 vials, so we're like, "Okay, let's give it another go." Um, 5th time, I get pregnant. Positive test. I remember I just started a job. Maybe I've been at this new job about 5 days. I had to travel, right? Maybe I had been there, maybe not 5 days, maybe I'd been there a few weeks. But I remember within that early few weeks time, I had to travel um, to a conference or something like that for work. And while I was away, I just didn't feel right. I, I just knew something was going on, and I was supposed to wait. I was supposed to wait until I got back home to do the test, and I couldn't wait. And I went to Walgreens. I got a test, did the little uh pee on a stick thing, and I was pregnant. It was the most incredible feeling because this is years at this point. Now this is 2018. We started this process in 2014. So, and this is somebody who was as a little girl, didn't have this dream, but I bought into this dream. I bought into this life. And we're pregnant. And I didn't say anything. I remember I took the little stick home once I came back from the trip, and I shared it with my partner, and then they were excited, and it was an amazing moment. And so it was like full speed ahead. I started looking for a house. Started looking for a house. Found a house that we were in love with. No, let's start looking for a school district. Found a school district we were in love with. Found a house we were in love with in that school district. Um, our good friends was a realtor, so that made it a little simpler to look and search for a house, right? Um, we start on our chalkboard in the kitchen, write out a bunch of baby names. One of those baby names was, well, if it's a boy, I had like 20 different names for a girl and one if it's a boy, which is my brother's name, Jonathan. So if it was a boy, it was always going to be Jonathan Garland. Garland is my grandfather's name. My brother was named after my granddaddy. But if it was a girl, I had all these names, but my favorite name was Ava. Ava Madeline, right? There was another name too. There was another name after a little girl. This little girl was this African story. Liana. There's a story. There was the Black Film Festival. Maybe this is 2017 or 2018. The Black Film Festival in Atlanta. There was a story of a little girl in an African country whose parents, she was orphaned and her twin brothers were orphaned. Their parents had passed away from HIV/AIDS complications, and so they were living in this orphanage. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know, I love the story so much, and so Liana was also one of the names on the board. And so, anyway, the life was planned solely around baby, and everything we did was about baby. Where, what are you like? I had to everything that I was eating, anywhere that I would go, it was all about life for baby. Where we moving, and things were good. We made the announcement to my family, to my mother, my brother, and they were so excited. So excited. I have this video, and I may share it with y'all. I don't know. It was such a beautiful moment where I give my mom this onesie, and it says something about grandma. And I was so excited about the opportunity to both give my mom a grandchild. It would have at that time been the second or third, her third grandchild. And I was super excited about that, right? And so my brother had my two eldest nieces, and then my baby would have been number three. And it was just like, this whole plan. My brother and my sister-in-law lived about 4-minute drive around the corner from me. It was just a whole life that was painted around it. So here we are, about 3 months, 4 months in. I'm starting to show. I mean, I'm big chick, so showing takes a while. But I was starting to show. I had a coworker who she was the only one that knew that I was pregnant, and so she was very mindful of that, very sweet to me about that. And it's coming up on our visit to the doctor to they've confirmed baby's good. We're about to be released to our now, I guess, uh, primary OB, and go through the ultrasound process, and they're I remember the doctor saying, and we're super excited, right? Because after today, we had this whole skit planned for our baby release. Is that what it's called? Baby introduction? I don't know. But we had this whole skit planned for it, right? And all we needed was a confirmation. We just needed the little picture from the doctor. So we go to the doctor, super excited about it. Like, this is just a part of the process. Go ahead and give us their picture so we can get out of here. And I remember her saying, like, oh, Alicia, we're having some trouble with this machine. We want you to come back in a couple of days so we can check our other machine. They didn't get us back in a couple of days. It was about a week later. I still didn't think anything of it. I'm like, okay, fine. And we come back about a week later, and the specialist, male specialist, now at this point, we've only been dealing with female clinicians, and this male specialist um, was very abrupt and I guess didn't have very good table side manner, but they go through the ultrasound process and like, yeah, the baby's gone. Now I'm big and pregnant, right? Starting, like I am wide and big, and you know, breasts are in pain, having these vivid dreams. Um, and let me just backtrack really quick. The night before I went to this doctor's appointment, my dogs didn't sit, they never slept in the bed, right? They slept next to the bed. But for whatever reason, this particular night, my middle dog, Parker, he wants to sleep in the bed with me, which I love that. And I remember my partner getting ready to go, my spouse getting ready to go to work. And Parker like growls and snaps at her. And I thought that was like, that's interesting. So I thought maybe he's protecting the baby, right? I wonder if he knew something was wrong. So next day at the doctor's office with this male doctor who was just, here's the thing, I don't know if it's just because he's a boy, or when you're a lesbian couple, and this is this is 2018, even though it wasn't that long ago, but maybe there's some kind of bias in the room. Or maybe he was having a bad day, but all in all, it was your baby is there's no baby. And I'm like, but I see a baby. Yeah, but that baby's their heart isn't beating. And it was just like that. And that's how I found out that my baby was gone. So that was it. This dream, this new dream, the dream that I didn't dream as a kid, that I bought into, fell in love with, was all on board with, going forward with. The dream was it was gone. Like it didn't exist. And there was no like going like you couldn't go back and fix it. And I remember being in that room, laying on that table, and he's like, "Yeah, no, that's it." And I remember like, "Well, wait, are you sure? Because I'm going through this and this." Now there were things that that happened that were um that felt in line with what he said. The way that Parker was reacting the day before. The day before that, I had been feeling bad and bad and bad every single day until Friday. This appointment was on a Monday. Parker was growling on Sunday. Um, or maybe this appointment was on a Tuesday. Parker was growling on Monday. And on Friday, the Friday before, every bad symptom and nausea and pain and everything that I had been having, it just went away on Friday. And on Friday, I was flying from, I was on a flight from New York to back to Atlanta. And I remember waking up in Brooklyn at this beautiful Black-owned bed and breakfast, Aquaba Inn, I think. And I remember waking up that morning like, huh, I feel really good today. Well, I was going into this new trimester, so that makes sense. That's what I thought. And so then to go into the doctor's on Tuesday and he's like, your baby is gone. There's no baby. But I'm like, but there is a baby because I see a baby. Yeah, but that baby's heart, the heart isn't beating. There's no heartbeat. Can't you see it? Don't you see it? Look, there's no heartbeat. So that's kind of where this story begins. That was a long, it was a long story, but that's kind of where the story begins because after that, I go into an incredibly deep depression. I was broken. And if you experience infertility issues, baby loss, miscarriages, there's a dream that you buy into, but when the dream doesn't come to pass, it does, I don't know. You can get lost, and I got lost. And I was lost and stuck and sad. And I remember being mad at everybody around me because everyone else's their lives were moving on. And I was mad about that. Like, how can you move on? Because don't you know what happened? Like that, we had a baby. We didn't have a name for the baby. We didn't know what who this baby was yet, but we knew there was a baby and the baby isn't here anymore. It's like, how can you be moving on? You can't move on. But they were. Everybody was moving on. I was mad about that. My neighbors who I built this amazing relationship with were moving on. They were still having parties and still having events. My spouse at the time was still going out, you know, like going to work and going to do things and going to do their hobbies and whatnot. But I remember being curled up on the couch and I think I wanted the world to stop. And the world didn't stop and I was mad at the world. So I stayed stuck in this state for several months of, oh, several weeks, months. It was so long, I lost track of time. I don't know. I was there for a long time, not bathing, not brushing my teeth, not washing my face. And I wasn't eating. I just didn't want to do anything. And I couldn't get myself out of this funk. And I remember it was this one night I got up in the middle of the night off the couch and I just walked into the kitchen and I opened the cabinets. And if you know me, you know how much this probably pained me, but it didn't pain me at the time. But I go into the cabinets, I open every cabinet and I break every glass. I open the cabinet and just start knocking glasses out. Beautiful pieces of china, vintage pieces, just knocking them out of the cabinet and breaking everything. And I remember my my grandmother, I felt like I just heard her voice. She's like, "Stop." And I did. And I go back and I lay back on the couch. Something like that. I think I remember just going back to lay back down and being stuck in that space. And my grandmother says, or this feeling, this thing, what I heard, it's like, go bake. And I remember going to bake. Now, obviously, I had to clean up the mess, but um, I just started baking, just started baking and baking and baking and baking and baking. Um, Now, time goes on from here. I did get pregnant again, and the celebration wasn't as big. Not because I was afraid about what had happened before. And in fact, I actually thought, well, this pregnancy, I'm pregnant, boom. Like, let's just go through the motions. I feel like I needed to get back to the stage that I was with the previous baby. I don't know. And I lost that baby too. And so at that point, I just went back to the baking, right? This is usually the part of the show when I ask my guests about their story. And obviously I just told you mine, how I got here, and just the connection between baking and grief and what the two have to do with one another. And so, reflecting on my experiences, often I often pondered, like, what was the hardest part of navigating grief after my miscarriages? And baking just really became my sanctuary. It became a way for me to channel that grief into something tangible and something healing. And so I was baking all the time. I I would I, I used to have this big sign that says something about collecting baskets, but I had a bunch of baskets, right? And so I would fill baskets up and I would leave them on the steps of my neighbors' homes. I'd take them to my family members' houses, my good friends. I'm talking about pies, croissants, muffins, cookies, whatever it was. I was just like, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I just had to keep going. And I don't know why. Or maybe I do know why, right? Like I felt like my in some way, and this might be weird and odd, and honestly, I don't care. But I felt like my grandmother was, and my grandmother's like I felt like my grandmother was sending this message to me, like, if you can't love yourself, I'm going to I need you to love yourself because I need you to live. I need you to thrive, right? Like, I was done. And and maybe, I don't know, maybe that sounds weird to you, right? But for me, like, I was broken. I was broken and I was struggling because I felt like my body, it was my fault. Like, my body couldn't hold this baby. My body couldn't keep this baby alive. It's my fault. So I have to punish myself. So I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to brush my hair. I'm not going to take care of myself. Because I don't deserve none of that. So I really feel like my grandmother wasn't having that. And so you know that song My Grandmother Prayed for Me? I've shared this before, but I think it's My Grandma Prayed for Me or Somebody Prayed for Me. Da, 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 da. I'm so glad she prayed. So it's My Grandma Prayed for Me. Well, anyway, I feel like the prayers of our ancestors, our grandparents, these folks that lived before us, they still persist. And there's something about it that just makes so much sense. So for me, that get up, get off the couch, go bake. That was that was my message. That was the thing that got me up. Go bake. I kept doing it and I kept doing it. And for me, I felt like I couldn't give love to myself. I had to punish myself, but in some way, me baking these things, these goodies, this love, I was giving it to the folks that I cared about or that cared about me. I was in some way showing myself what love is. And so then, therefore, I could love. So, as strange or interesting as that might be, really, that's really, what brought me up and it was what brought me out. So, reflecting on my experiences, I often ponder, like, what was the hardest part of navigating grief after miscarriages? And, again, like I said, baking really became my sanctuary. It became a way to channel grief into something tangible and healing. Now, another question that I ask myself is how did my faith evolve during my grief journey, right? But just as we mix ingredients with care, as you saw when I was making this pound cake, we can blend our emotions, finding harmony in the chaos of grief because grief can be chaotic. It's a lot going on. And so this vanilla dream pound cake, it isn't just dessert for me. It's a reminder that we can create beauty from brokenness. So how does my grandmother's legacy influence my approach to grief? It really connects me to her legacy of love and of resilience. The dessert that I get to share with you today, this vanilla dream pound cake, it just really prompts the question for me, what sweetness can be found in the memories and the legacies of those we love? By sharing stories and food and traditions, we preserve their impact and carry their love forward into future generations. So, your joy assignment. Your joy assignment this week is to reflect on a loved one that you've lost and create a dish or meal inspired by them. Whether it's a recipe they taught you, or a food they loved, or something that reminds you of them. As you cook or bake or grill, take a moment to reflect on the lessons and memories they left you. Share your creations with us using the hashtag, as always, cooking up joy, and we'll feature your story in our next episode. I'd like to raise a toast to you. Here's to the legacies we carry, the stories we tell, and the joy we find in remembering. The joy that we find in remembering. Cheers to you.